start sending stuff out. Okay, so now we have to use that box. Because there's no camera in here. You see the audio is working. So you have to go to the preferences and tell it to use the video device. That's the one.
Hiding in the corner. That's why we didn't. Like, we don't know anyone here.
That's the one we have to use. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was because you saw the
You're in there.
Go back to the camera. Go to camera.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to the corner. I'm used to that corner.
Let me reset this. Hangouts can't use the select camera without working. They look at this one, doesn't see it. Hit settings. That's what everybody. Use that camera.
Well, I was going to take the lunch, but
Let me see what other choices.
and this and that, so I'm going to be there.
Okay, then hit save.
Yeah, it's, let's go out and take your lunch. Let's go out and
Should be working.
getting on face, okay. Yeah, so he's fine on.
You just have to reset it. Okay, now we're showing the big picture, we're not showing, we're just showing this right now, and that should be going out.
So the way we know if it's going out is if we request one of these people
To sign in,
sign.
correct, to the link that you set up.
And you saw the note on
Well, I'm using the transmit from the switcher. So, we could do it right on here, I signed in, do you have a link? Can you give me a link?
Just go to search for on YouTube.
Yeah.
Still gotta get this computer over there.
Yeah,
No, no,
we won't mess it up, it'll be fine, we just pick it up and move it over.
Well, I have a very brief Zetamite thing. It's that's part of this project.
Then you have to nudge them.
I like to have to say, well, Steven Seeger right there can answer all your questions.
This is
This is a workshop.
Just hit allow or block or whatever, or close it.
right here. This is happening.
Okay.
Live now.
In the partition.
There it is, we're good. You are definitely going out. We have audio.
No, that's all
right
I-
now.
Let me go in front of here.
Yep. They are, but that's okay.
Say that in
Oh.
the-
We have to put it over there, we have to stick it on here.
Yes, let's stick that over here. So this should be closed, right? Not closed.
I'm
but
gonna
basically-
sign out in a second, don't even worry about that.
No worry about it. Okay.
I'll take this.
Okay. Bill?
And you take the, no, you take the power
I'm
supply,
going to
just make sure the cables go.
Okay.
Okay, the network's not working. It would be, but it's been messed up for the DARPA thing.
Right, we gotta get that out too. Right.
Send them push projectors. In a minute.
Tons of people here. What's going on?
Why
I
did
have to
that
send this one.
why did NASA go out?
But I didn't let that. I don't know.
Okay.
So we're seeing his computer now.
He's gonna put all the PowerPoints up there. and-
Yeah. As soon as, and I'm not, we'll be seeing the PowerPoints from this. And YouTube will be seeing the switcher, and I'm gonna pull this computer up onto the switcher.
Okay.
And that's the way that works. And if we have another USB, we can give them a remote presenter.
When's the remote? Tomorrow's the person's calling in?
I have no idea. Where's the clicker? Where's the red clicker?
Oh. Was.
Must steal it. Crap. Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So the world is seeing us,
Right.
my bulbous body, and
Like-
hearing me, but there's nobody on at the moment because we haven't even started yet.
Are they hearing us? Like,
They're hearing us.
we're hearing what we're saying right there.
Yes. Hi, world.
Didn't say that yet. We're hearing it delayed.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be easier. Actually, that's.
Well, the owner of a white minivan, your lights are on.
So- Camera already leaving up switched. So
I'll show you. I'm not leaving a camera switch.
Oh.
You're
just leaving
I was just doing that to prove that we're getting the signal.
Right.
I just kept trying to, the motion signal is supposed
But
to
if
be
you
lined
go
up.
through it, I have the count.
Maybe the first section.
Never good to see Keith.
Especially by the time.
And he got the same stuff.
And all the parking's gonna be gone.
That's what we're recording. Just slides.
Okay, so the 9:15, I can say talk about.
So it hasn't switched over yet. Oh, I haven't pushed the button. Or did I?
I thought you did.
Stay hang
Oh, I
here.
should have warmed
Yeah,
up.
I should have sent you guys.
I got one, no, I got one.
Well, you don't think they bought, anybody bought them. I bought them last year.
That's why we work on it.
That's right, wait, this guy's gotta turn his in. They weren't, they were all done. Got the power, it's a limited supply.
Well, 3, 4,
And how much was it?
10 seconds?
So we just said,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Now all we gotta do is get the presentations onto here now.
We got it. Period.
But is he giving them the right?
He wanted to know, did I see his email with reminders? That's David.
I accepted them. Did you accept them? You would have known. Do not accept that.
And now I have to look at him because he sent so much stuff out on the weekend.
He just gave us a list of who's taking over the recordings when, and basically it's what we're doing already. He canceled all them ones. Oh, no,
Yeah.
is that off now? Oh.
No, it's all. I'm gonna mute this.
Okay.
That's probably good.
Yeah, like, twisted lights, so he could come, hey, I wish I had one. A lot easier for me, so I can send you
Say
the
again?
food on secret.
Yeah, they need to go on that
Board. Easy to do it. Speaking of that. Gary. Good work. I found, I have one of Gary Combs.
That's the tax thing, your corporate
Test,
rate,
1, 2,
now you already
check.
have it.
Test 1, 2, check.
It's amazing how this country works.
complaining about. That's what we're kind of having scheduled now, I guess. Today's schedule, we get a lot of it. Like the same thing. It's one of your presentation right before you get them. That's right. Well, they can't do it the last minute.
No, it's, I'll put the, yeah, I guess.
If anyone's having a hard time getting onto the Wi-Fi network, disconnect from the guest network, reconnect and go to CNN, and it should get you on, and then you can go to whatever it is you need to go to. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Try the veal.
No. I should have put something down. It's fine. I'm disappearing. I'm actually, I'm gonna be here for the first talk and the last talk, so I'm not gonna take a cover spot. Where do you work? That's okay. You can finish. I just. You see us before? Or? Yeah. Oh, you're the first one.
He's taking over. You're taking over everything. Oh, you didn't get that announcement? It's happening. No, you get everything.
Okay, we're ready for PowerPoint.
No, you're the new, you're everything. Not just the CCD.
I'm not the chair. Don't make me a chair.
I'm gonna make a list of announcements.
I have a logistics, yeah, I figured that'd be great. But the whole intro slide is like, thank you. If you want to go right through. And so there's a, yeah, there's a. I'll just about, I have not added that, but my intro slide. The second one is just logistics. I figured if you and I can search for, these were just topics. I don't even know where the lunch plans are. I figured it'd be all right. It's just, there's no topics. Okay, so I figured you can make this show. Because I don't even know.
No, I mean, I can just get over, give it extra minutes, and plug them in at any time, and it'll just override. No, we don't have a. It's been a long time.
More and more point of view.
No. I still don't look at this as a driver. We can have it worked out. It's like, yes, look up. But you have it scared. Well, if you want to do that, but that's fine. I think we can just. Yeah, that way that might be easier because I don't know all the details. No. So I'll do it. I'll go all the way down here. I should add this. I don't know if I was going to take that in. I'll just. Yeah. I have some. I got some. Oh, I probably have them all. Yeah, I got a lot. There's one more I got to sign for something. Excellent. You made it through. Yeah. He's a tough game. Nice to meet you.
So there's. Over there, maybe it's Lockheed. I guess it's more Lockheed. Ames is like one word. I went to, I mean, I grew up in that area. I went to. Yeah. Right, that's right.
Yeah, it's cold and rainy, it's hard to get.
So whose building is this? So I was out there a couple months ago, my sister got there.
Oh, that's.
Whose building is it? Like, you come off the Dunbarton.
They have it. I don't know why it's like.
Later, guys. So I at least want to connect the dots early before I disappear. Right. He's with Express, so he should own them.
Oh, yeah, actually, the company I used to work for moved on people, so I stopped in there, so my sister got married out. So I had on Thursday, I actually that last time on Thursday, so nobody knew what it does. And I saw it on Facebook.
I would not answer the question, but if not, we can trade emails. And they're the ones that right. So yeah, I said the name of the company. I was trying to work time out and all that, so yeah.
And then we'll have the other guys, like the way they hire out boxes on a certain side, skyboxes on one side, and as a case for like one.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys can come up.
No airflow. You could do like 120 into the sea. It's like.
Right. Are you here just today or make sure that's true? Oh, I think, yes. Someone so.
Yes.
The funny thing is they're like making things like applying for.
I have to see what I can do. I might set my post up to you guys for a little bit.
All the time.
Well, another time. Cool. Well, nice to meet you. I said we should talk. No, no, that's fine. I wasn't sure if I'm going to.
Actually, might be a fourth. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I know. I will my.
They moved for her job, didn't they, for you? Yeah.
There we go.
I still have to give me a new one. I spend money. Slowly. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. So, English is enough. They have lines.
I've had enough with each side, dude.
I'm not gonna push it.
You know, it's interesting. When we first started doing that, it was decided to use it. We lost half our development. It turned out.
How are you today?
Test.
How are you?
I'm all right. You know,
And then distributed.
Oh, yeah.
The green. Our presentation will start shortly. Yep. That's
But I'm saying we'll do it.
This is the dry run.
I don't know why that's not saying.
It's so skinny.
I'm in trouble all the time. Oh, no, I just
Yeah, it'll be all three of us coming in and out. So you have my phone number. Oh, yeah. Let me get my card. Oh, great. Now you show up.
How the heck know that's gone on this?
No, I can say you're not here. That's all right. That's all right. You gotta push the go button. Yeah, hide your badges. You can make that an But we're not shipping it out. The only thing we're recording is our recording. We're not putting it around our video. We're just recording our yeah, that was just a test.
Oh, no, yeah.
So I always show most of the
When you all dressed up.
I did. I did 2 or 3
I do. What toys did you bring this time?
We have a toy. Or is concept.
My raspberry.
Yeah, I have to log off. Well, you can, I'll do the whole.
Well, there's some pushing that, like a fully PlayStation.
Even better. So if you want to. So we got nothing.
You know what?
Anywhere from $1 to $1 million.
I wasn't trying to text you.
Yeah, so you can use that kind of phone. Yeah, all right, okay. So I think we should.
I need another company. So we'll just go to. No, it comes out through the. Maybe not. I don't know. We have.
Yeah, I think we should, because I don't feel that's probably.
Yep. Maybe. Give me 20 seconds to go back and try 4 or 5.
Okay. Okay, you can't quite hear it here.
Are you on?
Yeah, it sounds good, but okay. Good morning, everyone. Oh, Art Thames is trying to take over. Well, thank you all for coming and welcome to the Core Flight System Community Day. We'll call it that, workshop Community Day. This is our 3rd annual one. It's also part of the 10th annual Flight Software Workshop. So I gotta go this way. And we're working out the bugs. So the way the Core Flight System is, this is a dry run for the Flight Software Workshop. That's the way I'm starting to.
I think you have to point
Are we missing the dongle? That's not,
on this. I think we are missing some.
or is that hidden too much?
Stay by this. Do this. Hit that 3 times.
3 times?
Yep.
Try it now. Nope, it's having a misery. Just advance here until I fix it.
Okay. All right. Ta-da. First of all, I'd like to thank the workshop itself, because I don't know if you know, the workshop's been going on 10 years. And they've graciously given us Monday as CFS has gotten more popular. They've let us do it on Monday. And then we also have the sponsors. So one of the reasons you don't pay a registration fee is because all our sponsors that also now take care of 4 days. And just before we get started, I wanted to go through a couple logistic things. First of all, just as more for the presenters, anybody that's involved with today, we do need to finish all the consent and release forms. I think I got most of them, but throughout the day, we'll get that all cleaned up. The restrooms, if you take a right out of here and just go across the lobby in front of the security desk, they're on the other side of the room. And we don't have any splinter rooms, but the part of this whole day is about meeting and networking and getting everybody together that's using CFS. So there are tables set out in the lobby, and there's also the cafeteria. So there's plenty of space to get us going. Lunch, I'm going to ask, first of all, this is Subodh, who has been unbelievably busy this last
Yes,
month.
absolutely.
Trying to pull all
No,
this together.
No doubt though, but really welcome you all. Thank you very much for coming. I know a whole lot of I think at least 8 or 9 of you are flying from outside. So thank you very much for coming. For lunch, we have set up food trucks. At least a couple of them will show up today. And then there is also cafeteria that you guys saw on the right-hand side as you came in. So that's a setup for lunch. We do have contact sheets there in case you need to call somebody or something like that. That's where they are. Okay.
Well, yeah, actually, these didn't have numbers, but I just thought I'd throw together a couple of CFS people and points of contacts and what their major functions are. So if you guys want, there's not enough for everybody, but I also have it on the screen. But part of today, again, don't be shy and
Right.
with us all.
And you were going to talk about demos and posters, so.
Yes. Well, so make this a little different. We're experimenting as we go along. Thought it'd be nice to have some demonstrations and posters of people. And this was all a little last minute, so bear with us. But it's about around 4 o'clock. We're gonna, this front row, unfortunately you guys will lose your seat, but we're gonna pull these tables and spread them out a little bit. But there's no more presentations after 4 o'clock. So the idea is we're just gonna have from 4 until whenever people wanna leave the room. We'll have people set up stations, and we have like 7 or 8 people that'll have tables set up, and then just, socialize from 4 to whenever. So that was the point of that. And then I'm going to suppose, yeah, the shuttle bus, he can.
And as you saw, there is some construction started. I didn't expect that when I reserved this room, but we have saved about 100 parking lots for people. But for folks who are staying in Homewood, the best thing is to catch the shuttle. Unfortunately, those who caught the shuttle, they're already here. But if you happen to know somebody who missed the shuttle, please let them know that tomorrow morning they can catch shuttle. The way it is that at 7:30 morning, the shuttle will leave from Homewood, and it will make a couple more rounds so people can come here. And I believe about 37 or 40 people have used the discount that was offered by Homewood. So at least we know that many people are staying in Homewood. Today only 11 or so showed up here. So there are more people who are missing from Homewood that we are expecting. And then there is dinner organized at Looney's Pub today. After the workshop demos get over, everybody can just go in there. And then tomorrow we have it organized at Cloby's. Cloby's is just a walking distance from the Homewood Suites. And then Wednesday, those who have registered, they can join the dinner at in the cafeteria. And Thursday, we basically break off. That's the plan. Okay, thank you very much. I'll let Dave to take care of now.
All right, thanks. All right, let's jump in because we'll probably get behind schedule quick. Actually, the schedule will be a little fluid, so I'll go to the agenda. I thought real quickly, just because I know there's people that keep adding onto this core flight, just to kind of give the context, the historical context kind of tells you where we are, because programmatically we are still challenged, and this whole point of this workshop is to, it's fully transparent, so we're not trying to, gloss over anything. So it really did start like before 2007, NASA Goddard. We actually stepped back and did an analysis of our flight projects, the flight software, and that's where we got some project independent money
and we were able to come up with a product line approach. But that was in-house. And then in 2007, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is still orbiting the moon, they used the open operating system abstraction layer and the core flight executive. And then basically, this was really the birth of the core flight system, and that's everything together. So we had the core flight executive. Then at this point, we developed 12 applications, and we had also lost some of the project independent funding. So a lot of that was done leveraging projects, so we could mature things to be reusable. But you can only do that incrementally, and so it was over a long time. And we had also shared it with Johnson, and they had done a Class A certification on the AIRINC 653. And they've actually fed that back into a lot of the artifacts back into. Oh, let's try this again.
Yeah, that works now.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So then we had our first, it was a NASA only. We all got together at Glenn, and that's when we actually formed the configuration control board that is now still controlling the CFS. And I'll get to what CFS even is in a later presentation, because that's part of, one of my goals today is help define that and get some feedback from everybody. So then in early January of 2015, Goddard released their 12 open source apps. The CCB was actually now functioning and operating with multi-centers, controlling, and they were able to release CFE 642. And then one just historical note is that functionally, since LRO in 2007, the API hasn't changed. There's been some syntactic changes, but functionally, it's really remained stable. So that's a big selling point for investing into it. And then we held our first 2 years ago here. We had our first workshop, and now we're in our adolescence. So expect some rebellion going on. So so here we are in 16 and 17. They've done multiple releases of CFE. Johnson's made some contributions back. We haven't had we don't have a general model yet for getting contributions back, and we know that's a frustration. And that's, I'm going to present some ideas during the program management section, and then I'd love to get feedback and ideas people have. And now we're at our second and third workshops, and last one was at Caltech, and now we're back on the East Coast. I don't want to go so real quickly, where is the CFS? And I don't want to actually, could people, who's working on a project that involves the CFS? Wow, that's great. That's great. So here, and I am a little, one, I could get the information, and it was a short time pulling these slides together. So this one is the NICER. It's an instrument on the space station. And real quickly, I'll talk while that plays. But this is showing the point and control algorithm operating the instrument. And one of the neat things there is that we use the Simulink interface layer, which was originally developed at Ames, and Goddard has since used it. And what that allows us to do is auto-generate a CFS app from MathWorks on Simulink models. And actually, I want to point Steve Lentini's there. He actually worked on this pointing, so he was he's the analyst on NICER that did the Simulink work, and then we automatically generated the app. And then it was just June when this was installed and then deployed on the base station. And I won't swear by the CFE 6.4, so I might have gotten I didn't get all the time to research what versions, but it gives you an idea of what we were using. Then just this month, or last month, I guess now, here's the Dillinger CubeSat being released from the deployment mechanism on the space station. And Alan was a big part of that, and he'll have a presentation during the week. So that was very exciting. And he's also he's using FreeSpace or FreeRTOS and the GOMSpace Nanomine processor. So he's got plenty of good stuff on that. I'm going to kind of go through quickly because there's a lot today, so I don't want to take it all introducing. But anyway, there's some more things. Where are we going? And obviously, with the show of hands, there's a lot going on. And here's just a couple highlights. So we got a lot of CubeSats going on. Biosentinel at Ames, and Goddard's got a couple more. Moorhead State has the Lunar Ice Cube. Capital One, I think, is doing. They might be launching I think that's 2019. Then the last at Colorado is using for a deep space mission. Then there's also the Lunar Transportation and the Catalyst. It's a lot easier to say than the big words there. But there's partnerships with NASA. There's actually 3 organizations all work with NASA. And all 3 of them are using the CFS. So that's pretty exciting. And then even our next flagship mission within Goddard, W1st, is, I don't know when that launches, but Bruce can tell us. He's the lead right there. So 2025. And then Orion backup computer, so the manned missions. So we got even in the manned. So it's really got a wide scope. And where could it go? This was pretty exciting. I don't know who goes to a small sat, but I've now been 2 years in a row, and I really enjoy that conference. And this was a chart that was shown about the projection. I'm not quite sure why it dipped in 2016, but of CubeSat launches. So there's a lot of opportunity for CFS, at least in that world. And then this was the NASA, this is the NASA CubeSat selections for 2017. And they've really expanded their CubeSat initiative. And they've been doing that, I don't know how many years now, but we're definitely making some inroads into the CubeSat world. So basically from the workshop, you know, obviously main thing is the people. So we're gonna get everybody together in a room and get some people talking. So we know we don't have the website as good as it could be, and there's other communication things. But if you haven't known, I mean, one of the, and I'm coming clean, so we have very limited funding. So it's actually the advanced exploration system that's been our lifeline the last couple of years. And so even though registration was free, there's a $1,000 fee to get out of the room. So we're going to raise some CFS money. It's the only way we're going to. So basically, yeah. So basically, when we get to the current state of things, and we got, you got your experts here, and please utilize them, and get the communication going from the technical point of view, and then pretty much connect ideas with the people. So here's the organized agenda. We've got program management. So I'll be giving an overview. Joe Hickey's on a train right now, so that might slip. He's going to give you a 6.6 release, and he's been deeply involved in all the details. So please use him. Glad he could make it today. And then Jonathan and Joe will give a technology roadmap. And then Lori will give the advanced exploration CFS. They've been heavily involved in projects. So then we'll have a platform session that Alan and Joe will give their technology roadmap. And then we have 3 presentations. And in the spirit of, well, we'll get there. I'm not going to read through everything. Well, that way we'll get through to the sessions. Then we have a tools session. Then we have an application session. And then this was what we're going to do a little different this year, is where the community basically, enough presentations. We're going to have a couple people that have demos or stations, and we'll just talk. So we'll have hopefully couple hours, 1 to 2 hours of getting everyone to connect. And we can have breakout sessions on whatever topics. So these were the demos and posters that'll be going. I'm not going to go through that now. We'll have a time to introduce those later. And then also throughout the week, I don't know who's staying for the week, but there's actually a lot of there's still other CFS presentations. So if you're hanging out for the week, but some had a broader scope. So just to kind of let you know to tune in to certain ones. Again, I'm not going to read through them all right now, but I just want to make you aware of them. And that's it for the intro. So hopefully. Oops. And then I can slow down a little bit. So the first part, I was going to go over a little program management, and I actually changed jobs about a few months ago now, 3 months ago. I'm not fully funded, but I am now partially funded, at least to help with the program management side. So that's good news. But I don't have a budget or anything. So, but at least I am part of a person. So if there's programmatic things, I am going to be a focal point of trying to get things coordinated. And hopefully, one of my jobs actually is to find additional funding. So that's actually, I consider that one of the, within NASA. So if I can get some kind of sustainable funding. But one of the challenges there is when I first having some conversations with people, really got to figure out what is the, oops, went ahead. What is the, what is the CFS? So if I go to some management and say, oh, I need money to sustain this. I got to have some real clear picture to them of what I'm asking them to fund. So that's one of the challenges. And I'll show some ideas today that I've talked to multiple people about, but I'd love to get the general idea. But first, an announcement, because unfortunately we lost 2 key people just within the last 2 weeks. I guess this month, December 1st. So 2 charter members decided to move on to new positions, or so they went for new jobs, and both of them were very instrumental in getting this working. Susie Strage's been chairing the CCB since its inception. She took a new job at Goddard. She's still at Goddard, took a new job. So she will definitely be missed. And I once saw the term with open source, like the benevolent dictator. And I think that actually she was very good at, getting the consensus of the community. It's a difficult job. Every meeting was virtual, and you really got to have a good talent for that. She did a great job of getting things moving forward as a team. And then Greg Limes, he's a senior developer, and he was Mr. Git. So he did the Babelfish setup. That's an AIM server, and he did all the CM and the whole Git thing. So Chris Knight is kindly taken over that role. So. And we haven't filled the chair yet, so there will be a little gap in things. And maybe Chris will say, hey, I'll chair, I'll do Git, I'll do, I'm kidding. So we will have probably like a little breather here in terms of, so 6/6, and Joe will be, I don't even know, I guess, whether it was released, but I won't steal Joe's thunder. It is officially, but, so we're doing it real time here. So here's my agenda. What is the CFS? I did a quick backup because this does matter from a technical point of view. When we developed the product line, and it is a NASA product, so we got to meet NASA mission needs. So our life cycle, this is, yeah, so it's kind of the classical V, but quite almost a U. So we do have subsystem requirements, and so it's a life cycle approach to reuse. And then those have detailed requirements. And what this is showing is that they're parameterized. And then we go into the code, and then we have the unit test. This is our verification side. The integration, we don't have reusable integration tests. We've talked about them, but we don't have them. And then we do have build tests. But the build tests we have are tied to what Goddard used, the assist work ground station. So those are not generalized either for the general public. So that's another one of the growing pains. So this was done as an in-house to Goddard. But now that we've gone open, there's definitely areas where there's challenges. And then you'll also hear about electronic data sheets, and that might help some of these challenges in becoming an open standard. And I think everybody's familiar with this, but I just kind of wanted to show it again, the level of anybody that's not. So we are a layered architecture. So we have our platform abstraction layer with the operating system abstraction, platform support package, which is things that are more tied to the board, the hardware board. Then we have the core flight executive, which is just the services for the application layer. And then we have an application library that's also reused, and that's CM'd with the core flight exec. And then we have core flight exec has its own apps, which are basically a ground interface to the services. And then we have open source apps. And that's what we've collectively been calling the CFS. But I'm going to maybe, I don't know if I challenge that a little bit or how I want to say that, but so here's our current model. We kind of have the NASA bubble. So the CCB is just NASA centers, and they're the ones that, take change requests. If you notice, there's not a line going this way. Right now, the line was Susie would get emails from external people and then write a track ticket inside, and that's still where we are right now today. And then we make releases. And then actually the OSALs, PSPs, and CFE is bundled in a CFS release. And then the apps are over here. And the apps are a little fuzzy even in my mind as I stand here. So Goddard released them. They're on the Babelfish, but I'm not quite sure where all the track tickets get embedded. So, and that's kind of where, the CCB can't just keep taking new apps. So they can't be this app manager. And that's one of the things I want to try to present to break up a little bit. And there's other challenges. So now the responsibility is the user's got to assemble. They basically assemble a product. And that's asking a lot of a new user. Again, we didn't originate to be a product. So this is my view of, so, okay, I got the core. What do I do now? And then what apps do I need? How do I send commands? How do I configure the system? How do I write a new app? So all these kind of things create this great, some assembly required. And so we're trying to get there. Actually, this one I could skip. We've already gone through that as a grassroots effort. So I thought I'd make a little analogy here. This is kind of, so if you look at the phone world, so we're a single organization that have proprietary vertical product line. And I kind of made an analogy here. So in the smartphone world, you got software-only platform, you got hardware and devices included, then you got closed source software, and then open source. So in a sense, Goddard was the Apple world where we controlled the whole vertical stack. And even within our world, we didn't control the hardware platform, which is one of the reasons we abstracted it, because the software group doesn't get to dictate. But now we're really moving to the Android model where we're open source and platforms, can change as well. So what does that mean programmatically? Use the word complementer. So that's anybody that sells a product or service to complement the product or services of another company. So in that world, mobile phones, they have hardware platforms, they have system integrators, device manufacturers, and application developers. We're very similar. We have our hardware platforms and operating systems. That's kind of our abstraction. Then we have our system integrators, we have our spacecraft manufacturers, and our application developers. So in a sense, a lot of times, for like Goddard, that'll be an in-house mission. We'll perform those duties. And then we're also trying to pull together applications and the hardware platform to make a spacecraft. So what does that mean so now we got that transition we want to do. So here's the current state. And I think we've kind of touched on some of this. So we have the scope of the CCB is really not, we haven't really defined that scope. We've just kind of evolved and things have just happened. So, and I think that's causing confusion of who owns and maintains which components. We have limited resources, so we definitely can't just keep taking new products in. And it also does versioning complexities. And I'll give an example is, so we have this great performance monitor tool. And so we have 2 of them actually in there. But if they release a new version, do they wait for the next CFE reversion, or do they, they're not CF, they're all tied together CM-wise. And I'm not sure if there's a new version, and who actually maintains it. So where do you write a trouble ticket for that? We're also got people inside and outside do not know how to collaborate, and that's, we're missing opportunities, and some of that's being a government organization and some of the legalities we got to deal with. So in a sense, back to my other slide, we're not positioned to really enable the complementers, the people that can make us better. So we need a clear plan, and I kind of mentioned I need that plan too if I'm going to solicit, or we all need it if we're going to get funding. So you can groan, but I actually, I presented this last year, and it's actually held the mission statement. So some people are, oh God, so now I've been away from technology way too long. I'm writing a mission statement, but actually it did help. And I stole parts of this from Eclipse Foundation to try to really just think of what we're trying to do. So I maintain, advance, and support a NASA Class A/B open source flight software frame, and I call it a framework. And I said NASA because we have to still meet our NASA goals. I mean, that goes back to that B, we got to have all the artifacts that let us have the verification we need to have. So I'll define framework, so we need to define that. Then I had a second bullet, define and release architectural components and interface specifications to promote an open source community and ecosystem of complementary products, capabilities, and services. What that sentence is trying to say, so this is, again, is NASA's mission statement. We're not here to do all those things. We're here to create those interfaces and specs to let other people complement our framework. And that's where I think we can now, this coming year, really do a better job. So, and I've learned this lesson over the last 2.5 years. We're just not wired as a government organization to really be. We're good at creating the standard, and I think our job is more the API and managing that. And that's what I'm going to get into is the framework. So the framework would be, there's 3 components to what I'm going to present. The framework is so basically it's those 2 API layers, and it's the specifications that go with that. and then they would be controlled and maintained by the CCB. So then we have distributors. Distributors are going to collect the apps and the platform packages and make a distribution. Now there's challenges here. And that's part of what this workshop, I'm hoping to have a lot of conversations throughout the week. But, you know, there's certain markets. So Goddard could be a distributor. Again, we got to get funding to somehow distribute. I'd like us to be one where we distribute our open source apps and say, we maintain these and now we make this distribute and it runs on these platforms. But that has funding challenges too. But the first funding, I mean, I'm hoping to get, I'd love to get NASA funding for this, the framework. Say, we control these APIs and the 2 layers, and it's got a stable product lifeline. And then we also have, down here is the platform, and then we'll have catalogs. And unfortunately, I really hope to have it open today. And Gary Smith just walked in. So he's helping with, we have a core flight system website, and that's run by the SHREC organization, which is the Center for High-Speed Computing, University of Pittsburgh. It's a consortium. So we didn't quite get the catalogs, but we've got some drafts that we're trying to get, and we can work on them throughout the week, of where we have the platform abstractions, the applications and tools, and distributors catalogs out there. So a new user could go out and get a distribution. So that's in the works. So those are the 3 components: the framework, the distributors, and the catalogs. So the way this now works is, so NASA would release the framework. We have the catalogs here and the distributions. A mission could still assemble their own distribution in a sense if they don't want to take one that's out there. And right now, obviously, we don't. I'm calling a couple things distributions, which I'll show you later, but I don't even know if the people that built them know they built the distribution. So, and then, so the distribution would actually be an operational product. So the CCB is not responsible for producing and maintaining an open source product as an operational thing. They're more the spec. And I could almost call it a reference implementation, but it's pretty much the Thank you. So I'll let you look at that while I get a little water. Thank you. So this is a lot like, you know, it's actually similar to the Linux world. So if the CCB outputs a framework, then this example has a Goddard being a distributor. So we could distribute our open source apps as a distribution. And again, that puts the burden on us to maintain those apps as well, which we, you know, we actually have a software maintenance group that does a lot of on-orbit maintenance, and we're in discussions with them to see if that's a role they could play. And then there's actually a small sat organization at Goddard that's being formed. And, you know, and again, this is just proposals or possibilities. So they may want to tailor for the CubeSats that we do their own distribution. And whether they make that open or closed could be their decision, but they may want to maintain, but we'd also want a feedback loop. These could almost be technology paths. I mean, this is where I want to get some ideas, you know, and maybe even maybe a NASA technology release makes sense, where we have a NASA body that's that moves a lot faster than the current CCB, but they inject technology and then they fold things back, similar to maybe some of the Linux releases. Again, we'd have to figure out how to make this work programmatically. But I could easily see, especially there's a lot of new apps in the wings, things getting tailored for specific user groups.
No, are there efforts, all set, that will reference hardware architecture? Okay, basic CubeSat, there's processor.
Goddard's trying to do that right now, right? That's the one effort I know of. I don't know if I thought maybe Ames was doing it as well, but not that we've seen what you're doing. But.
Okay. So yeah, obviously that thing with really the distribution is a whole package of the core flight and then like the hub system,
right?
And all that. So I think the educational outreach packaging last year was kind of the first pass, but
It's actually listed as a distribution on a later slide, right? That, to me, that is a distribution. And
But I
it's,
think obviously we have referenced hardware platform.
Yeah.
And Susie goes to Google ground software. It's like, okay, what is your ground software that we package into this with Susie? So
The big thing for us, I mean, we've
Oh,
had
you know what?
reference platforms, but they're.
Yeah, there are
nothing
people
that
online.
interesting to other people. I think what you're talking about is having reference platforms that people can use to build and leverage.
there's online stuff there.
And so the big thing that I guess I was wondering about, and it would be good as a group, is that what we found is that let's just say we pick a Linux BeagleBone, okay, or Raspberry Pi, or picking some kind of other ARM Linux. The biggest thing is that there's usually not that much interesting stuff that's happening with it. And it would be good, as a community, even to come up with something simple, okay, something that's non-controversial that you could go ahead and release that would be that building block tool. And I think that's always been our biggest hurdle, is that we've been able to put something together, but it's kind of boring because it doesn't really do much at that particular point. And it would be good to do it as a turnkey, to be able to do that. And I agree also with some simple ground software. Now that I know a lot of people have been looking at Cosmos, and so you now really do have a kind of completely open source solution that's in a box. But that would be, I think, getting some kind of simple model of doing something that you would be able to interact with would be useful at that point. And like I said, it would be interesting to see what that is. I mean, we have our own applications and things like that, but not sure what it would be as a group would be interesting there.
Right, and I've actually put in, not the, but I put together an OpenSat kit that is Cosmos and CFS and a little bit of 42, which is a simulator. But my goal was educational as well, because I wasn't going to kill myself on my own time. But there is the NASA IV&V put together the NASA operational small sat simulator, which is much more industrial, and that's intentional to go through the life cycle. So they've also got it where you can do hardware in the loop. So, and I look around, but there you go. couldn't gotcha. So they'll be here and talking about. We'll have a part of the poster session.
Well, you can talk about engaging vendors.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other ideas at the small sat conference was actually talk to the hardware vendor to see if they want to put together a package for their hardware, like if you're going to use a nanomine or something like that. That's another way of doing it. So it's an integrated package that's ready to go, and they develop whatever device drivers they need for their hardware and then distribute it that way.
I think so. They weren't here.
Yeah.
Do we have a way of checking that? Is this for online hearing? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know if they have a feedback. I don't know if I need to go. I think I've already mentioned, so this was more, so the CCB is no longer collecting and maintaining just all assets. They're now managing in framework, in minimalistic in scope. It's provides specs. So we'd also want to, which I think I have on the next slide, they should publish how do you create a platform abstraction? That way it gives instructions for people how to plug into the framework. And hopefully our app model will mature more, where we could have a plugin and even have automated tools for plugging in apps into the system. So those are the kind of, the things they'd be focusing on. And distributors, I think I already mentioned, are complete and functional operational systems. And let's see, I think, yeah, so this kind of breaks down, what the CCB could control. I think that's the right word. So system-wide, there's a command and telemetry database. Right now, what's out there is an assist database. And actually, there's an ITOS one as well. But ideally, if we go to electronic data sheets, we really just have a generic description of it rather than a specific implementation. And then the tools that would be at the system level really only need to be the make and an EDS, but other tools could be collected by a distributor. As opposed to just keep adding tools. And that's something that needs to be figured out, because there is a simple command and telemetry Python tool with CFE. If people find it useful, we can still deliver it. But if there's these turnkey distributions, well, then nobody's going to ever touch a simple little, the Python thing, and it's really not needed. But at the application level, they could, I mean, the sample applications would be useful, and I think they're also involved, and I don't know, some of the board members could answer better, you know, in the verification of the CFE. I think the sample applications like lab scheduler and lab CI and PO lab are needed. So they might have to still be some set of applications. And we'd still need, you know, deliver the unit test assert and maybe a simple app gen tool. But I would also see that being built into the distributions. Then the executive is our specification, and we already have, you know, we got the API, we got the implementation, the unit test, the requirements, and the build test. Put a little note here. They, again, the ones that are delivered are, you know, it's tied to the assist ground system. So eventually we could make build test suite that's runnable, maybe in a more generic way. And at the platform level, and this is one we've had a lot of discussions internally. We'd like to, you know, open up. You know, how many platforms should the CCB manage? You know, there's limited resources on verifying them. So what makes sense, and why is it a good complement? You know, right now we have the Linux and we have the VxWorks and the RTEMs, but FreeRTOS might be a good one to add. But again, somewhere it's got to either distribute the workload of verifying each release, but we should have rationale for why we even include certain ones. So challenges and next steps. I think I mentioned some of these. So we had the abstraction. So who's going to test and where? You know, we'll create clear rules of engagement. And again, even if we have these technology distributions, it'd be nice to, you know, we're going to have a way of feeding that back. And how will the market evolve? And so if somebody else says, oh, I got this platform, well, they may not want to maintain it either. You know, they did a one-off thing and they just say, it's nice to let the community know about it, but I don't really want to be burdened with that either. Just as, you know, NASA's struggling with the funding, they keep things going. So, and then, you know, got to figure out, you know, with distributors, how, you know, who's going to maintain those components is really the model. So we'll see how this, some of it might be a fun time to learn and see how it goes. So, and again, we got to design our website in alignment with this model, and we are currently doing that. Like I said, we got some draft catalogs, but we don't have a, you know, we got to get a good registration system down. And is that automated? And even maintaining those catalogs gets to be another, if it's going to be useful, it's got to be current. So then from a workflow, you know, it'd be great if we said a new user went to the catalog, they download, looked at distribution. I get that. And if they want to augment it with other catalog components, that'd be great. So that would be kind of the new way, as opposed to going out and assembling everything and then creating their own distribution. So that's all I had right now. And anybody have any questions or comments that we want to discuss now? Or
I don't know if this is working, but
right here.
so just for your information, before, because we went out and touched the catalog concept much later. I actually got a contact from a JAXA person who's looking, or a Japanese, I'm not sure if he's actually affiliated with JAXA, a Japanese professor asking about CFS and SPN. And so just so you know, there is some activity on the site already. It's just, you know, it's not
okay.
the volume
Good.
you're probably hoping for, but you know, at least we're making some connections. And I sent the info to Susie, but I can send it on to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Looking at they're evaluating CFS for space missions. So,
and then I can update the annual blog, the one blog a year out on the core flights. Maybe that frequency might get a little.
yeah.
So if anybody's interested in participating in the website itself too, I honestly that we'll get that going. Did you want to say something?
Not like
Oh.
Joe just came in.
Oh, look at that. Well, I don't know if he wants to take a breath. I literally finished that. So you want Joe to go?
If Amtrak arrives within half an hour, it's on time,
We can still go with my stuff and give them brief.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so then next up will be Jonathan, who's the CFS architect. So he's been around since day one as well. And so he'll go and give you some technology roadmap. Let me begin with that. And that was Joe Hickey, who just walked in, who was also going to be doing 6.6, plenty hands on a lot of things today. And like I said, it'll be a little loose, the agenda, and as we talk even during breaks, if there's things people want to hear about.
So how do I get mine?
I'll go. Just let us know. You can't hear where? On the web? Okay, you know what? I'll go find some doing this.
Where's the little clicky thing?
What did I do with that? Oh, there it is. Excellent. Oh, did it go back? Oh, no.
That
There we
looks
go.
fine.
Excellent. Thanks.
So we're just going to talk about the roadmap a little bit, and we've made some progress on the roadmap from 2015. So this is the original one from one of the first workshops. There's a couple items, so I'm going to talk about a few of these, and then other bits are going to be covered later today. So back in 2015, we talked about increasing the namespace, the electronic data sheets, updating software bus network, multi-core implementations, autocode, real-time Linux, partitioning, CMake. Then some new ones we have coming up are onboard file transfers, revamp of the time services, time-triggered scheduling, and 64-bit implementations. I'll touch a little bit on those, just a chart each, because those are things we're trying to define what we want to do, except for this one. That one's pretty clear. So an activity that's been going on for a little while, moving at the slow pace of CCSDS. But we have a prototype of it that we distributed, and now it's included in 6.6. So CFS has always used the CCSDS space packet protocol format. There's really not much of a protocol behind that. I don't know why they call it a protocol. But we've been using it since essentially the first mission I worked on in 1992 at Goddard. So it's been around a long time and stood the test of time. So in this upcoming release, which I'm not sure, maybe Chris Knight can tell us exactly where it is. It's supposedly coming out in a week or two of 6.6. But now you can turn on an additional 32 bits in the secondary header for namespace increase. Has the ability to go up to quite a large namespace, 2 to 37th, but we're not going to do that. So we're limiting it here, which is actually still somewhat impractical, and the default setup limits it to 2 to the 16th. And it's a little complicated, but I'll get into how we accomplish that. Luckily, all the changes are isolated to SB and SBN. There's just one thing you just need to recompile. And the data type that used to be 16 bits is now 32. It's pretty transparent to all the applications. And applications just subscribe to that number. It's essentially the topic that you subscribe to in the topic that you publish. Near-term infusion, the restore mission at Goddard is already using this because they have a distributed system with 16 processors, and namespace wasn't big enough for them. And then AES Habitat potentially is a need where they have a habitat and a docking vehicle and other things that will come in, and they need to maintain more than what CCSDS space packet currently allows as far as the namespace is concerned. And then I assume there's going to be other missions. Another example might be a bunch of CubeSats collaboratively working over RF, where they each They're actually communicated over SBN, and they're part of one system. So you want to maintain sort of separation of namespaces there. And this allows you to do that. This was the proposal, and I'll get into the status of where this is at, but essentially all we did is add in an additional 32 bits down here into the secondary header. This part of the secondary header remains the same.